Thank you. So welcome to the Water Race Committee meeting, 6th of May 2026. Welcome to everybody and thanks for coming. We'll just stand and recite the Karakia Tamatanga. Praise to Tai Moana, Rara ki te Tai, Mai ki awa moana, Rara ki te awa, Tēnei te hapori, Ake te katatai, Whanua whanau, Haurei te tauti, Haurei Huriai Tākia. Thank you. So we'll move on to apologies, and we have one apology from Neil Wadham. Is there any other apologies? I have a mover and a seconder that apologies be accepted, please. Thanks, John and Steve Gallen. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Anybody got any conflicts of interest declarations for any of the items that are on the agenda items that have been circulated? No. We have nobody in public forum, so there's no discussion on the public forum. I'll move on to item 6.1, which is confirmation of the minutes. Confirmate the minutes as circulated from the 11th of February. Has anybody got any discussion or anything they want to bring up?
Brian, just wondering how things are progressing with the Cobden Road. We had the meeting, but I just wondering there were some actions.
Yes, there was, and Lawrence and I'll talk briefly about it. We'll bring it up later.
I think we'll discuss it when we go through the report.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get the CHT updated.
Yep.
Thank you.
No other questions or discussions? If not, can I have somebody that was present at that meeting move that they're true and accurate record? Thank you, Mayor Steve. Seconded, Grant. There's no actions from it. So all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carry. Thank you. So we'll move on to the water race report, and Lawrence, you want to lead this? Lead off?
Yep. Who would like a written? So Pikey's, the overseer report didn't get sent through in time to be added in to be circulated. So we've got that to be added to the minutes, but there is a written, if anybody wants it, I'll speak to it anyway. I'll hand it through. If we need any further, we can get that printed off. Well, I can read it out as well.
You got a translator?
Anyway, I'll take the report as read, but I will just sort of point out in terms of sorry, I'm on the wrong report. Call outs, basically, and I think compared to normal summer, we've had less that we've had to sort of deal with in terms of the overall call outs. And we'd had, if I'd included a sort of a total, like usually we'll get 200 over a year, and over the summer period, we've only sort of had 12, 13 sort of call outs that sort of got coming in.
Most of the call outs are not to do with water shortages, it's to do with flooding with all the heavy rain.
And that corresponds with sort of the general comments in terms of we haven't really had too many periods where we've having to reduce the flow that's come through, and yeah, the levels have been fairly good.
We only basically had the one or two times that we went on to low flows.
Right. And if you want to go through the overseer's report?
Oh, well, just basically, I'll just cap on a few things. And I keep saying every time the weed growth seems to be worse and worse, but extremely bad this year. We've used up quite a bit of extra of our money on cleaning because of sections that are double fenced now that are chock-a-block full of weed, and we clean up where we can clean, and then we go round. And because we've had all these fresh rains, that's stripped all the areas that we can't clean into the areas we've already done. So we've had to go back and get all that out, and that's where most of our blockages have come from. I've always been aware that whatever comes in the rain is actually better than the water that the plants are actually living in. So when you get fresh rain, you do get better growth. It must be dust and nutrients that accumulate on the plants on fine days, and then when we get the rain, you get the growth. The growth has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Rosie did 6 or 8 years of cleaning, and he's never seen weed like it. So it's just one of those years. As far as the ecosystem goes, as far as the fish are concerned, it's been fantastic spawning season because, of course, the fish spawn better when there's more water, and they always spawn better after a rain. And if the conditions are right, they can spawn every 10 days. So had untold spawnings and juveniles, but then when we had the 2 or 3 or a week of actually low flows, and the poor little buggers got left stranded because they weren't big and strong enough to make the grade. So there would be quite a few casualties, but that's the way it is. The river has had a little bit of a tweak up in the last flood, so we've got a few minor repairs to do there. Our intake gate, Rosie and I have been working on it today. It seems that part of the technical computer stuff may have malfunctioned, I think, has it, Rosie?
Yes.
And they'll have to come up from Ashburton to replace that at some stage. So we're getting false readings. Rosie rushed up there on the weekend when it was at 100 litres a second when we need 480. So we panicked and thought we were running out of water, but at the end of the day we didn't, because it's reading wrong. We were taking probably 500 litres a second.
Yeah, we've all done.
So, yeah. So other than anything any of you guys got, it's me.
Well, in the Mangaturi too. I think.
Oh yeah, we had, with that last flood, we lost there's a tree that's self-sown at the back. The roots had grown in up against the concrete, which didn't look to be a problem, but somewhere along the line they infiltrated the concrete slab and cracked it. And then we got the river copping over, which it's never come onto your paddock since I've been there. Went through the policeman's shed that lives in the house adjacent and forced the concrete head wall round. But luckily, between Rosie and myself and Jay and concrete engineer, we managed to pull it back into line and then bolt it and then pour a big dead man in beside it. So we didn't want to reconstruct it because we are building a new one out in a different place. So we didn't want to spend any more money than we had to. Quite a few slips. John's responsible for most of this.
Yeah.
We're going to get
Not much land, he's giving it away. He's letting it. We don't want it. So we've had some massive big slips in the Carrington Hill and also in the Tea Creek Road Hill, right from Mangaduru Valley Road right round to Mount Holsworth.
Yeah.
The slips come down through the boundary fence and down into the race. So unfortunately, we can't claim them nowadays on flood damage. So they have to come out of your maintenance budget, and all of those races have been cleaned prior to those last few heavy rains. So it's given us a bit of a hiding.
Does John own the slash as well that comes down with it?
Yeah.
No, that's all gone long ago.
I've always been at the shed. It's just a matter of
what level of it.
Devilish.
it's a. Well, that was a terrific flood though, wasn't it?
Oh,
Like I think Johnny said they got 160 mils in 4 hours or something.
I mean, just over that 2-week period at my place, which is just up on Chester Road, 300 mils. That just, we got 112 one night. The next day we got 75, and then the next night we got 65, and it just carried on.
You've done well with your intakes though, Pikey, because that boulder where, Wainawa, but you've had that held there for a long time.
Well, we haven't come out of it that well this time. It's knocked a bit of a hole in the centre. Not too bad,
That's
but
repairable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Mangatau area, if you, luckily that whole intake didn't go and you've maintained it, you know,
Well,
you've banded it up for the meantime, which is
Yeah.
good. But the new one, when you put the new one in the Mangatau area, you should be pretty
Well, we'll have double
foolproof, you
gates.
feel.
See, that one's the original. So
Oh, yeah.
Ray it was here when Ray came. He'd done 35 years and I'd done 48. So it's the original.
Yeah.
And I think the reason the concrete cracked is that when you look at it, they mixed the concrete down on the river with a steel wheelbarrow and wheeled it up. So you can see that the day pour there and the day pour there. And there's about 8 pour lines. And that was a weakness in it. And plus it had no Rio.
It's going to 80 or 90 years.
Yeah. But the thing is, we had to fix it because the fact is the river come up, we couldn't control what came through. And we've got the house where the policeman lives and then there are yurks next door.
Yeah.
Would have cleaned them out. So we're lucky we had 4 days of good weather. And we diverted the river a little bit. It was only minor works in the river to put the water down the back channel.
Yeah.
Away from the intake so we could get in and work. But no, it's come out good.
It's good.
And also in terms of the count, it's worth noting that we've closed off a few in the Kokotau, which have been hanging around for a good 6-9 months. Just the weather conditions, ground conditions weren't suitable to actually work on the slope.
It's a tough one to do for the fact is it's limited access. But luckily we store soil whenever we get it for nothing at Park Road and then we truck it out. So we had to build a bench, not dig a bench in the hill because the whole hill would be down. So we had to build a bench beside which Rosie took
It was
2
about
days to do.
100 tonne.
100 tonnes of soil
Just so
that
we
we
can
had stockpiled at Park Road. Built ourselves a bench to work on and then a new pipe on the market of 32 metre length, like Nova Flow, but it's 300 millimetre. So it goes round because the race is not straight, it goes snakes all over the place. So we're able to follow that round. So we've done about 38 metres in this run, but in the next, there's still 2 weeping lakes. And what I mean by that is that it's all clay. So you get a worm, burrows into the bank, and then the water just pressures it and then just blows it bigger and bigger. I mean, we shut it off one day. We put a pipe up into where it was leaking and down the bank to the road. And it stopped that day, wasn't it, Rosie? Went back 2 days later and the pipe's just about shooting across the road, the water pressure.
But we
Because-
really need to do at least 200 metres there.
At least it's,
Yeah.
but it's ongoing. Yeah. And
It needs a wider one because that, as I keep being told, that isn't our asset. So we're upgrading it. Normally we'd be getting them to pay for some pipe material. So the rest of the water race network would be paying for that.
so what you're saying is because the race is not the district council's asset, we shouldn't be paying for it.
Well, no, it's saying that the targeted rate from everybody else is
Yeah.
paying for that.
Yeah.
Where normally if somebody wanted a section piped, they would be
Paying.
paying that at the cost of the pipe at least.
Right.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
So-
we've never used a bigger pipe. I think 6 inches is the most we've ever used
Mm.
when we do pipe it.
The rest of that one's going to be even harder to access.
Yeah, because it's steeper.
So are we we're maintaining an asset that is obviously not our,
Questionable.
whether it's ours or not, but pardon me, both sides of it are open waterways. Is that correct? So it's all part of we need to maintain that, but to get
Part of the network.
water further down. Yeah. Yeah, and we're doing it because we want to do it, not because the owner.
No, well, he hasn't written about it. He just keeps bringing up every time it leaks and we go out and sandbag it.
Yeah.
But we got to a point that we
It's a-
come up with a plan. This was only to see if it was feasible to do what
Yeah.
we thought we could do.
Okay.
It is, but as Rosie said, the rest of it is worse than what the bit we've done. We've done the easy bit.
To install.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like putting a wastewater pipe on Lincoln Road.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, any,
It's quite significant. We did look years ago at cutting it off and putting tanks up on the hill, pumping it from the low-lying land up to the tank and gravity feeding that Kokotau Hill lot. But it actually goes right round the hill again, and then it goes down into Taumat Island wetlands and then discharges to the river, and that's where our discharge right is. So we're obligated to get the water right to the Rimanga. So Brian said we probably are obligated to maintain it.
But it is worth going through and having a bit of a discussion around the financial report in terms of at the current expenditure, we're over budget.
Are we going to have more questions of?
Oh, sorry.
Well, you mentioned fencing, how it's making the cleaning more expensive. That's where the waterways is fenced on both sides. So I thought in our, we had a draft code of practice.
Mhm.
Did that get finished?
We
Yes, she's very
explain,
glad.
we
Yeah.
meet with landowners. Lawrence tells the regional councils, if they've got a program, they contact Lawrence. Lawrence gives me a plan. I go and have a look with them and then suggest what suits us. But unfortunately, most of it doesn't occur like that. It's just done how they want to do it.
But
And we have no access.
isn't this like, we've discussed that before, but isn't this a case a bit like that rural advisory group? Isn't there a time when we have a meeting with regional council and actually have a discussion on these issues? Because these issues have been around now for a fair while.
Yeah.
And there's been no real conclusion. Like, there's been no conclusive point where we can say, actually, like, if they've given the wrong advice, they've essentially got to say, we've given the wrong advice, and then go back to the landowner and say, well, this is not working because this is costing.
We started this when the fencing first came out, and Rachel facilitated that when she was in our group, with meetings with regional council. We had a guy, Andrew, I think his name was it? And we had him really switched on to what needed to happen. And we just started doing some of the schemes and they were working really, really well. And then he left and they got somebody else, which didn't really want to go down the track that we were using. And then they stopped having meetings, didn't they, Rach?
But
Yeah, they didn't want to be involved in any discussion with us. They make the rules, we follow them.
I don't accept that that's good enough. And you've got two bureaucracies. Our one we think's the good one. And then you've got I can't see how you can't get a resolution on this stuff with regional council who are basically in the water business. Yeah. So you've got to have an approach that works. You can't, like, we've gone on for years. They was fencing up back in John Rose's day. Just going back a bit.
Yeah,
They gave advice of double fencing and stopping, inhibiting the cleaning. I think it's time we really sit them down in here and say, and get photos and say, this is actually what the current situation has been dragging on for years. Those trees and shrubs are going to get bigger, so therefore it's going to be harder. But I can't see how you can run an effective cleaning regime if you can go to a point and then you can't clean anymore.
Correct.
And no one's going to, and like we've really got we've got to have a discussion with them. So their advice is the same as your advice. That's number one. And then if people still want to plant and make it difficult, then it's a bit like if you want the cleanings taken away, you've got to pay the contract rate for doing it. If it's going to cost a whole lot of money to clean that piece, you've really got to put it on the individual if they want to keep the trees.
But we only get involved if the regional council is putting in funding. If the landowner decides to do it themselves, they don't come back and consult. But I'm pretty sure all the times that the regional council are involved in terms of their funding, we've got a tick box to say they've consulted with us and checked with Pikey myself.
They don't consult with, that's the issue. They were giving advice for years on double planting. And then they weren't consulting with me. They weren't coming back and saying, how does this affect the cleaning?
history.
That's the issue. That's why the problem's there.
But isn't it,
Is that right, Pikey?
isn't it also the fact that, I mean, it's not just a matter of them paying more because it's costing you more to clean out that section, but it's the impact that they're having on the neighbouring section
Yeah.
that they should be charged for.
Well, you'd be flooding his land, potentially.
But the other thing, like John just hit the nail on the head, flooding. But where it's really, really noticeable now, things have happened with the planting, and I've crowed on it about before. First thing is the blackberry. The blackberry are now that bad that it's actually killed the native plantings. But the other thing that's happened with all the deforestation from the plants, dead plants, leaves and everything, the land where the plantings are is rising. And the water from the rain cannot get into the drains now. And there's more surface flooding throughout the pastures, and they're going crook about it, but really at the end of the day, when your land lays to the lowest point where the water race or a natural stream or stormwater drain is, when it rains, that's where it goes. Now it can't get there. So this is where we're having this backup, and the void really just backs up right to the road, across the road, into the next property. We're having more road flooding than we've ever had before.
So just to recap a little bit, the draft code of practice is, where are we at with that? Is that still in draft form, and that's actually
Released here, has it? I've got the draft here. It's May 2025.
yeah, but it hasn't actually been released.
I don't think it ever got, well, we never got it presented these meetings, but there's always.
Okay, we'll make sure that's presented.
But
There wasn't any changes from the last time you saw it, I don't think, though.
I don't know. I don't if you know.
Anyway, we'll finalise it at the
So-
next meeting.
So once we get that finalised and
Well, it should come back.
out to comes back to the next meeting, perhaps we should get GW in the room with us, as you say.
Well, this discussion has been on for years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
John. Yeah, but I don't,
It's ages.
don't accept, like these, like the councils, GW, they're out here running their little ship, running their rules. They're bringing costs upon the district council. And it's just, you must be able to get a sensible resolution. And I just don't accept that we can go on for years. Pikey's given the same report now as he gave, same problem 5 years ago, and we haven't done anything about it.
It's not just the big farms either, it's the small landowners that, like, when they purchase a property, they should be told that it is a water race.
Yeah.
And there should be rules and regulations given to them.
Yeah.
And, you know, and this doesn't seem like that's happening either.
No.
Yeah.
But the regional councils, in terms of the fencing, that's a national regulation.
That's not,
It is.
that's wrong.
It's come through in terms of,
No, doesn't say, there's nothing in the fencing that doesn't say you've got to fence all stock out.
in terms of waterways.
I think so.
We can discuss later, but
No,
It's a water race. It's got nothing to do with the regional council.
No.
It was bloody booze and or something else, fair enough, but it's not.
Does that come under the freshwater?
natural resources plan, but that is the regional council's regional interpretation of what national policy statements are. But anyway, we'll check that.
But the word interpretation is exactly the issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
Their interpretation, like some personnel, not the whole New Zealand, some personnel has decided this in Wairarapa.
Yeah.
And said on the basis of this regulation, but that's, the whole RMA was not written down as gospel. It was all subject to interpretation. And that's where you get, that's where we've had all these issues. But I think now everybody's been pushed a bit into that corner by the government to be more realistic. And I think now would be a very good time to have a real good straight out regional council around these issues that Pikey's been dealing with.
Jeff has got some comments.
Thank you, Chair. I seem to recall the code of conduct has been circulated to all water race owners. And I recall my staff doing that a couple of years ago when we had a very similar issue that came out. But the previous code of conduct was drafted and was circulated approved by this committee, and I've approved what we do water rates use. The issue that we face, that Freddie faces, is enforcement. Who is the enforcement authority for the code of conduct? Is it this committee? Is it council? Or is it regional council? And that is primarily the problem that we are facing, that Pikey is facing, is he has no enforcement powers on a private landowner on their water rates. So there's no point getting the regional council to talk about the issue if we aren't clear on who has the enforcement power to enforce the code of conduct on a private landowner. And the short answer is it's not council.
It is council.
We only own the consent. We don't own the land. We cannot tell the private landowner what to do on their land.
I disagree, because the councils have the right to rate. That's why we have one of the key reasons why the council were employed to run the water races. They can rate. So if they can rate, they can enforce.
No, we can rate.
To maintain,
We cannot enter someone's property without due course. And a code of conduct is not sufficient.
A code of conduct was a guide.
yes,
The only thing I've got is this draft one of 2025.
yeah,
Not sufficient for us to enter a property and enforce the property owner those practices.
yeah. It's basically a voluntary best practice.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
I accept that.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like if you want your cleanings taken away instead of dumped outside your house, like you can charge them for taking those away. And all I'm saying, this is why the discussion first, in my view, should be with regional council. And if they're sensible people, and a lot of the people I deal with them, and a lot of people are sensible, they're good. But it just seems somewhere along the line, when it goes up a couple of levels, it comes down as non-sensible.
yeah. But that was
The
the
people
point.
on the ground, I've found are really good.
Yes, yeah. And that's when we deal with them and we get the agreement and it's signed off, like you sort of consulted and it's ticked off to say that. However, the landowner can fence the water race themselves. So you've got two different things. You sort of, so it's not.
He also refused Pikey coming onto his property. Well, technically, because it's private property.
It's costing them, but
Yeah, exactly.
it is there.
Which is the problem we're facing. There is no ability for Jason or Pikey to enforce the regime that we would like to see across the entire network.
Now you're
If
talking.
somebody wants to.
It's going to get a badge and everything. You want to fix
It's no different to the Waikakari. You have an expectation of the owners that it passes through to clean it out, and if they don't, it impacts flooding on the neighbours.
And that's the very reason that the council is contracted to do what they do for the water race.
Yeah, and most of the time it doesn't, it's fine and we do have access in that, but you do have that risk of if there are issues, we have, it's difficult for us to try to enforce that or get them to comply.
But the original issue we talked about was the fact that the regional council have given advice to landowners to double fence, which is at odds with what we need to run the waterway system. I go back to the point, surely you have to have the first discussion with regional council and say, look, this is not working, go out and show them, and we should be on the same page. So their advice to ratepayers should be exactly what was in that draft code. That you plant natives, you only plant on one side of the water race, and you make sure that Pikey can clean the water race.
Are those recommendations still part of GW's code of practice? John, do you know, or have they changed it?
Yeah, well, I think GW, they were running, going back to even John Rose, they were,
Talking about now, not 20 years ago.
I know, but that's where the confusion is, and then it's carried on, giving Pikey this increasing problem. And now the trees are growing up. Now you've got a whole lot of weed you can't get out, which will cause flooding or cause problems downstream. So hence the discussion should be done.
But I'm just wondering, I wonder what because Fonterra and their supplier agreement with their farmers they've got a fence, and if they don't fence, then it's bad news for the for the dairy farmer. So I'm just wondering what the setup is for them.
Well, they're inspected now.
Yeah.
They have to have a dairy inspector inspect all their
Yep.
runoffs.
Mm.
Now, if they're not fenced, their milk's not collected.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Can I just go back to the hillside?
Yeah.
The problem out there, is there a case for maybe, I mean, Pike, is some of those stretches that cause problem, are they piped?
Some are.
Because to me, you know, the water race system's 120 years old or whatever it is. Over time, all the cleaning that naturally is deteriorated. And to me, it would make sense whether some sort of, I don't know, protocol with the farmers that have those problems in those areas, whether they would consider piping, they would benefit, as would everyone else up and downstream.
Yeah. I think
Sections
the
of pipe,
legality,
no drama.
the legalities of it, John, is great because a lot of our smaller races only have like a 6-inch, what we call a 6-inch feed.
Yeah.
So you put a 6-inch pipe through, which will cope with our water and guarantee our supply through the system. But when we get heavy rain, you a hell of an expensive to put in a pipe that will, even if you put in a pipe in the paddock that's the same size as what's under the road, it would normally be 4 or 5 times bigger. So it's 4 or 5 times the cost. So that puts a lot of farmers off. But John knows that we, and you do, that we do everything with negotiation with the farmers and we don't have any problems. We don't have anybody.
I realise that. Yeah.
I've been on to them since before Rosie started and earlier on, as you know, about the blackberry. Talk to the guys and they go, I've checked with Lawrence. Lawrence said that it's the landowner's responsibility for the blackberry. So I've said to the farmers, look, GW won't do anything for you. We won't do anything, but you need to control the blackberry to make things easier before all your plants die. And they go, it's GW's idea to plant. They can control the blackberry.
Yeah,
So nothing gets done.
I find that a pretty negative myself.
Yep, well, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I know, but if you're a good farmer, you would have a better attitude.
Right, we'll move on.
Any,
Lawrence.
before I go into
Yeah.
the financial report?
Cobden Road.
So should we have,
Yes, true.
Brian,
Sorry?
should we have a discussion with regional council?
Who in the regional council do you want to have a discussion with?
Person that gives advice on fencing and planting water races.
So there's Ebony and that sort of thing.
Oh, but she runs it, couldn't she?
Yeah, I think he's Doc Collins.
Well, we could do.
Yeah, maybe.
Should be on the same page.
I think you're just going to have a meeting and they're going to agree because they're already consulting with us. So if they're involved, they're already saying that it's in consultation with Pikey and that.
Well, yeah, when they're doing a planting like Lawrence says, if they've got a finger in the pie, they do consult with us.
Hmm.
We tell them what we would like and tell the landowner. And then 9 times out of 10, Rose will tell you when it's done, it's not how we wanted it.
It's not consulted.
Well, they did consult it.
But it's not getting.
They did ask. They just
It's not
didn't,
like your.
they just didn't take our suggestion, John.
Sounds like how the community often consider the council decisions.
Exactly. It's your fault because they're following after you guys.
Sorry, if it's not,
Does that answer your question, John, or do you?
Oh,
we can have a discussion.
I think you've got an answer. From Pikey and Rosie are going to be cleaning those water races forever and we're making their job harder by allowing this planting. I can't see that's acceptable. Can you, mate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So I've got a question just to you talking about we can't enforce different things. How do we enforce an extra charge on a landowner for an extra cost around cleaning out this stuff?
Basically, try an agreement.
It's easy. We just change the numbers on the bottom of their account.
But can they refuse to pay?
Well, they haven't.
So we have no way of enforcing. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just a question.
Sorry, John Boyce just checking his rates and voice. To answer your question, Creepy, because we have powers under the Rating Powers Act, Rating Valuation Act and the Local Government Act, whatever we send out as a rates invoice must be paid by the ratepayer. So if it comes out as an invoice on card, then district council release it, unless it's for a fee, like a
So we should,
spot, for example. If it's a rate invoice, then it has to be paid in the water rates and targeted rates, and so they must be paid. Whereas if it was just a cemetery plot, it's a fee and a charge, and it's a standard terms.
Can I ask a question? The places that we don't have access in, could we measure them and charge those people extra?
And that's what I was going to ask.
Like we have A and B for the water rates, could we have something to do with non-access?
potentially. Probably a bit late to try to get it in this
Then it might
year.
defer some people from doing the right thing.
And that's what I was, that's what I was leading.
Absolutely, that would need to be a resolution of council as part of the rating and the targeted rates, and as you, council sets targeted rates for different water users and different classes of use. You could do exactly the same.
Well, we've already got an A and B. It would just be identifying that section of water race.
Which is maintained in that section, which is not maintained. I think it would need to be very clear
It's been going on.
of
And those properties, informed. Because all of those rates are discoverable on the GIS, I think, don't they? Does it break it down that
the
quickly?
reason I say it would need to be clear
Yeah,
is that we use quotable value, which is an external entity, to inform the value of the property. So council doesn't decide the value of the property. I think we would need to ensure that there is some external transparent method of determining who gets charged a higher rate versus who gets charged a lower rate. And that would need to be something that we could rely on and have audited.
So do we want to quickly record that as a separate action?
I've written it down already.
Okay, cool.
So from this, so do we want to look at that before we invite GW to a meeting, re-fencings and plantings, or do you want them to come?
I'll do that.
So we'll take it as an action that we invite them to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And also look into the
It
rates
would be good, Brian. It would just
for the water users.
clear up
on access.
So just to be clear, who we're inviting from GW, it would be the people advising when landowners were inquiring around plantings.
Yes. And the requirements around that.
Okay.
because Lawrence, there's a lot of those catchment groups that do exactly that
Yes.
anyway, and
Yep.
they're wonderful groups of people and what they achieve along waterways. So they set a brilliant example for what can be done, as you be aware.
Okay. So we'll move off, Cobden Road, the last bit on overseers.
Yes.
Lawrence, will you have an update or Pokey?
We've started, Lawrence just had to sort out the funding and that, so that took a little bit of time to get that sorted. Got the pipes on site, we've stripped the ground, we're ready to fill the hollows, and hopefully it might be finished by the weekend with a bit of luck, Rosie.
Yeah, weekend next week.
Yeah, got this concrete head walls up there all ready to go.
Okay. So that's diverting that.
Down the
But
pine
we
trees
walked
at
out.
Nolan's into the back stream,
And that will alleviate, Karen
Well, we
McPherson.
set it up with, a minimum of 300, which is half the size of the pipe under Cobden Road.
Up to size, double.
No,
Yeah.
So you're restricting the flow.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We're also installing a plywood disc that we slide in and out with a smaller hole if the flow is extremely high, which would pressurise the 300 pipe. So we have an opportunity to reduce it down to 100 mils in heavy rain.
Okay.
And if that works, that works. If it doesn't, then we have to come up with plan B.
Good to see progress. Finance.
Finance. So expenditure against budget is 104 over budget. Now, it has been raised before, and we haven't been able to find why the maintenance budget was reduced. So basically, in terms of maintenance budgets, is over budget by 47,000. And obviously, there's still a couple of months to go. So, yeah, why it was cut from 355 for the actual to a budget of 272, where we're not actually sure why that sort of happened.
I think the answer is that less was spent. So we spent below budget 2 years ago because we had a wet year or something. We couldn't get the work done, and the figure came down, I think.
So the actual was 355 last year, but the budget for the full year was only 272.
So there was a mucking around. I can't. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of those overhead budgets and that's all been reduced, so that doesn't explain it. But depreciation is up, so we think that potentially there's, and to offset is that, sorry. In terms of overall, we've got a couple of options to make sure that we continue the work. We can reduce or stopping maintenance work until July 2026, when the budget would be exhausted, or continuing the maintenance works and funding work over the budget with the additional expenditure to be recovered, or a mixture of both.
I notice that I always struggle with how these things are done, but when I look in simple terms, look at your rate income. For 2023, you got 740. That we had a rate income total of 822. In 2024-25, you dropped to 612. 2025-26, you dropped to 541.
That's the budget.
Income. No, it's income.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Total income. So therefore, the water race users, are they paying a third less rates than what they paid 2 years ago?
Yes. Yeah. We reduce, we recover what we spend. So any overspend from 1 year or underspend is recovered or
On the next
compensated for the next year.
Yeah, okay then.
So it's currently, we don't have sufficient budget in terms of expenditures over it. So what we're proposing is to increase the budget. Well, one option is to increase the budget to continue the maintenance, and then recover that from next year.
Well, you'd have to, on the basis of how you're doing it, if you don't spend, you reduce the rates. And if you do spend, you increase the rates.
Basically.
That's how it works.
So you can only recover it once it's been spent. So we can't put, so you're looking at adding some more in there.
Correct, to the extra budget to.
Can you add
continue the
more in there, know that they're actually doing a lot more work in the water races now than what they've ever done? And it's probably going to continue. How does that work?
Catch up mode.
How does that work?
Well, we could increase, because at the moment,
What we would do is short-term fund from reserves, the shortfall for maintenance budget in the 2025-26 year, and then pay back reserves next year.
Oh, yeah.
And that would result in a slightly higher rate to water race users next year to pay back that shortfall.
Yes, because
but if we want to, we can look at in terms of recommendation, we're requesting that the council recommends that, the committee recommends council approve 30,000 additional for the maintenance budget to be funded.
We recommend we draw.
So you're querying, we actually increase that, anticipating that we're going to be.
I'm not paying I'm not a water race owner.
I think you
Me, if you want to get, as an owner, if you want that maintenance done properly and we're going to be under budget again, I'd be increasing that budget.
That's right.
So,
No, I agree with what Jeff was saying.
But it says a funny old,
That makes sense.
yeah, because it's an odd system how councils run it. Because in a normal business, like we'd have a fixed income of rates. And then if we got a surplus, that would go into a surplus, into an account that would be kept as a surplus. But what you're doing, my understanding is that each year you've got to sort of end up with,
Trying to be balanced, so, yeah.
you're trying to get up balance. So therefore, if you spend less, then you rate less.
Yeah.
Therefore, the rates move up and down. So if that's the system you got to go with, you got to do exactly what you just suggested.
Yeah. So we agree on that, do we?
We agree on bullet point 2.
Yeah,
Basically,
and we'll probably update the recommendation.
If we send a newsletter out to ratepayers, it would actually be advisable to actually try and explain how the system works. There's people that do look at their rate demands,
Mhm.
would look and say, "Pikey, our rates have gone up." They probably won't say they've gone down the last 2 years, but you'd want to, if you write that in the newsletter, you'd want to give an example. Like say, you take one of us, take their rates and say, well, the rates for so much 3 years ago, then they've dropped because we spent less, then but now we've gone up. So show the example.
Yeah.
But I dare say, I don't believe anybody out there would actually understand.
I think we're here as a committee to discuss the options and the council will put it forward for approval and we move on.
Yeah, because ultimately as the representatives, we will be recovering it from the users as a great. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, any further discussion? on the
Yeah, that's
finances
that's a recommendation that we'll vote for at the
at
end.
the end of it?
Yep. Any more discussion on finances? Everybody happy? All right, move on. YT Waters.
Yes, and YT Waters, I think that's come out in terms of announcement. So the board has been appointed a couple of weeks ago. We actually had them go around some of the plants on Monday. And they're progressing that. So basically, as part of that, quite a number of staff from the council will be transitioning over. So for instance, Jeet and what else I have? And Clem Bellum, the technician, so the sampler, will be transitioning over to the new water entity. So they will be no longer available. This is just to sort of keep you informed of what's sort of happening. However, we'll probably have to review how we deliver things because we won't have that expertise available going forward after July sort of next year.
So you'll have to contract that, which will be an added cost.
Potentially, yes.
So we would have to contract then in to do our sampling because we have to have a suitably qualified person.
Yeah, potentially. So that sort of thing, or whether or not we get somebody else to do it. So there's that sort of thing will keep you informed, but it's just to sort of highlight that that's a coming thing that we'll have to consider going forward.
Do you have any idea how much you'll have to add to that budget after July 2026?
Not as yet. So that sort of, at the next meeting, we'll try to sort of put some numbers behind that.
Because you'll be reducing your corporate services anyway, because you haven't got them here.
Yep.
You're not paying them. Therefore, you'll pay someone independently.
Wow,
I think
potentially more.
when we started the water testing, regional council offered us a deal to do the sampling for us for 33,000 and we decided to do it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
Well, that's what we decided at the time.
Yeah.
They said they would do it and charge us 33,000. And we said we'd
I
try
think
it.
those things should be looked at.
Yeah, well, it'll be a lot more now, won't it?
I was going to say that was
Yeah.
probably 20 years ago.
Exactly. Well, not 20, 15 at least.
I think Brian, through you with the YT Waters, I mean, there's a huge amount of, I mean, I know there's a lot of work been done on that already, but there's huge change coming.
Mhm.
Wow. And I think we're going to be, to be working together as best we can, or be informed as best we can by Jeff and his team, Steve and the elected team, yourselves, well, Jeff's team, where we're heading.
Yeah.
These sorts of, and the best options going forward, but at the moment we don't know.
Yeah. And before you even add in anything from last night's announcement.
Yeah, well, that's what triggered it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further questions? As I said, we'll have a bit more sort of information come forward, and obviously that's developing all the time.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, we'll move to recommendations. I've got two recommendations. One, that we receive the report. I'll take these both together. And two, we recommend council approve $30,000 additional water race maintenance budget to be funded from additional targeted water race in 26-27. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
I'm happy to move that.
John and John. Okay. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Nobody's abstained, so it's carried. And the action from that, basically discussion was that we invite GW to the next meeting.
And we also have something about investigating a more targeted rate for.
Just going to say that.
Oh, sorry.
And number two, we'll investigate a targeted rate for water race users that will not give us access. Okay, that's two action.
Cool.
Okay, so we'll move on to the water race quality report, and that's Jeff. That's you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. So we have progressed well with the consent renewal. We have finished all the technical assessments and sampling, including the review. But just so we finished that, we had the opportunity to refine and review the monitoring program we have for the water crisis. So we have engaged the consultant again because we discussed about the monitoring program with the surveys, the consultant advising Greater Wellington, and also they sought Greater Wellington's advice on this. So they said it's good to submit along with S92 response, which will make it easier to make a decision. So it's not too far away. So once that's completed, we'll be submitting the entire S92 response. That's from the perspective of consent renewal. And in regards to water quality, overall water quality has been stable. It's just a seasonal variability across all the parameters, but they've been all stable and looking fine. You can just look at the graph that I've supplied that you can see there's no trends or any emerging trends. It's last more than 10 years data. Any questions?
I've probably got one question. Looking at all these monitoring points that you do across all the sites, the CMO1, the CMO2 to 18 and rah.
Yep.
Can we have a list of where they are so I can sort of work
We're on
out?
the map.
They're on the
our
map.
water race map on.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Okay.
map. Yeah.
I'll have a look at that.
Yep.
Thank you.
We can
I've got a
potentially
map.
add a.
I can add the
You've got
map
the map?
next time.
Yeah,
I've got
just
the
get in
map,
touch.
but even
Okay.
if you just,
Oh, the one
we have a list.
the one we use
Okay, yep.
for the one we
Yeah.
use for the water race is on the Rosie tablet, and it's on the system, isn't it?
Okay.
So that's one of the items that I just said. We are reviewing the monitoring site. Some monitoring sites are only providing limited value. So just reviewing it and to make sure that any sampling we do is providing a greater value. That's why we have engaged, especially Carrington, what sampling is looking good for a very long time.
So is there a minimum number of sites you have to monitor, or is
They selected these ones.
Who did?
GW.
GW did?
Yeah.
Okay,
What we proposed.
that's part of the consent conditions you've got to
It
monitor
was.
so many
Yeah,
sites.
there was some, those at the meeting, John and John were there. Some of these testing we're doing, they were suggesting that after a period of time, they would take them away because a couple of them were insisted from Fish and Game, which the regional council water quality scientist Ted Taylor suggested that they were an absolute waste of time and not worth the paper they're written on, and they're worth 150 a shot. We do 7 in a run. So and that's they're all at different prices, whatever the tests are. So there was an opportunity, or should be an opportunity, for us to drop off some of those ones that aren't necessary. But according to Brent Stanfield, the last time Jeet and I and Rosie talked to him on FaceTime, was that the Carrington is almost drinking water.
Okay, so yeah, that's probably my point, is the labour involved actually just physically going and doing it, and we're going to lose our water sampling personnel and the actual cost of it. So if we could shrink them we're still within our consent
The
conditions.
first thing we could do, and because Rosie's more techno than I am, there's a possibility that we should train him to be a tester.
But Pikey could go get samples.
No, you have to
You have to
be
be
qualified.
qualified.
Can I just question that?
Yeah.
Rosie is more techno than you?
Yep. Absolutely.
That's not raising the bar too high.
Hey, obviously you weren't looking at the last meeting. I said that he's going to be better than I. It's the winner here.
Same as meat pie gets an age thing.
Yeah.
We've been out with Brett lately. He's come up with a couple more sites that we're going to do as well. So that's going to be in Carter's Reserve. So just as the water race comes through off the big bridge, he's got a little site down in there. And then we went on the backside of that.
Reserve.
Yeah, in the backside of Carter Reserve, and he wants to take a sample out of there as well.
Have you got one on Rutland Road? So that on the downstream side of the town? Should have one there.
There is a site there.
Is there a site
I
that's,
think we're done. They're not testing it at the moment.
they should be doing that? Cool, we should know for our own information, because we're going through this consent process.
It's the same at Wainawa. We're doing one at Wainawa.
Yeah, well, now we should, because you got
So
that
we're
industrial
doing,
park.
you know, where Quality Demolition is, there's the water race that comes in from behind there.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's taking another sample of where it comes out of the wetlands as well.
So that's good though. So will they,
Yeah.
because you've got to know what, you've got to know where the areas
Yep.
of pollution
You
are.
think,
Yes.
yes.
Obviously industrial area.
Yep.
Where you've got traffic, where you've got people.
Yep.
And you should definitely have one on the bottom side of the town here.
Mm.
And should be measured at like these.
Yep.
So those two 1 hour ones would be good,
Yeah,
and then one down here.
So Rutland Road is monitored as part of stormwater. And we're getting sort of that analysed at the moment in terms of longer term stormwater. But in terms of actual obvious sources of pollution, I don't think that's
So
going to be the results you think it is.
So let's monitor then, Lawrence, under stormwater, under council stormwater.
Yeah.
So can we have the results of that? So we know it for our consent? Yeah. But we could, if they were added in, then it's, and like you're saying, Rosie, those 1 hour ones are really important. Because when you're doing a consent like this, regional council start saying, well, there's pollution or something's not right from here. We can say, well, actually, we've got the site, and these sites are actually where the problem comes from.
because that one that we went and saw with Brett a couple of weeks ago, that's going to be a new site too. The way.
The thing is that we've been lucky to convince Brent to go to the spots we think, because in the Tarakai, 2 of the spots we test are really detrimental to our results. They are one that we test directly below 2 natural streams that are very poor quality that feed into the water race, therefore does affect the quality of the water race. So by moving into these other places, we're going to get a better overall result. And as Carrington's almost A1 drinking water standard, the previous results, Taratai,
Because
I think it would be as good, if not better, because the quality and the amount of water flowing in the right places is really good.
because when we started this testing, one of the parts of it where if you suspected that there was a issue coming from an area, then I thought you'd have the ability to test that. So like you're saying, if there's a natural stream coming, I think we looked out the back of Carrington there, and if there was a natural stream coming into the water race that we suspect that there's a problem, then we could test that natural stream. So therefore you vindicate the water race and identify where the issue is.
But that's obviously eating into our existing budget, and we've only got enough for the regular monitoring sites.
Brian's point is then about then is do we streamline, are some of them not necessary?
Yeah.
Some of them could be taken out and others that are more pertinent to the system and going to identify problem areas put in.
Hey, we're going to do that.
That was how it's supposed
We
to
are
happen.
going to remove some, yeah.
We try and
So I take it that these test sites that are here now have been long-term, like
Correct.
20, 30 years, where they might be not relevant
from the
now.
last consent.
And new industries in different areas, one Wainoa for a start. you know.
It started after the last consent.
Yeah. John,
Brian, could I just ask something else? It's in this section of the agenda, the resort resent. Start again, John.
consent.
Consent. Weekend, I was at a function and I was having a discussion with David Holmes from Marsden District Council, one of their councillors. And it's probably where a couple of us were asked by the age about the Carterton water race system last week and, to their best to pump it up. But David was saying, and I just don't know whether this is something we need to be concerned about. It hasn't surfaced, but the iwi rep on their council, she's the Mary Ward, has, they've withdrawn their support. And I don't know, Pike, you have anything about this, but withdrawn their support for that Opaki water race.
It's a risk.
You're right.
And I just wonder what, but is there a risk?
Can I just question that, John? Was that, I'm trying to think of her name,
Is it Holmes or something, or
Rangatani.
Marsden District Council, isn't she?
yeah, but
she's their elect?
was she the Māori ward representative or was she one of the iwi reps?
No, I think she's the Mary Ward representative because she's tied up with the Rangatani.
Yeah.
But yeah, you might want to check that because I was pretty sure from what I'd been told by both iwi is they're supportive of the Opaki water scheme.
Sorry, you're correct. So
That's right.
David said both iwi support it.
Yeah.
This lady who's the representative has gone against it.
She's an elected representative of the
Yes.
council.
She's Mary Ward representative.
Murray,
Starts with W.
Wakaria,
Wakaria.
yeah,
Waireka.
Waireka.
That's it, Waireka. And I know that we've only had really good dealings with our married friends for our water race, and some of them actually have the water race in the Gladstone area on their properties. But I just don't know whether, Pike, you'd heard anything or?
Well, 3 years ago, the OPACI group asked me and John to help with some advice and try and give them some guidance. So I said to Johannes, can we go? And he said yes. So he gave us his blessing as my boss anyway. And so John and I went and saw the users a couple of evenings, and I've been helping them ever since. So I've been talking to iwi, and there's some very, very significant things that I've found in my studies that nobody really knows about. And so they've invited me to go and talk to them and explain and show them the photographs I've got of what the eels are.
The ecosystems of that.
Yeah, and what's actually happening there, because it almost looks like now that the elvets is what they're called, and they just look like a white bait. That's what they drop off in Tonga when the females go to spawn, and they burst and release. Somebody's counted them, 6 million's the figure that I've read, baby elvets, and they are coming into the waterway system right up as far as Park Road, like schools of Whitebait.
Oh, yeah.
So it looks like there's a possibility that they have a homing device to send them to where their mother left from. And so I've got photographs of all that, so I'm going to spread that amongst iwi, and they certainly need to change their thinking if that's the way they're going, because in the river itself, there's very little habitat. No weed grows in there, there's no watercress in there, so if they want watercress, it all comes from the waterway / national streams. The only way they're going to get that. And the eels, the young juvenile eels live in there, and they live on all the other native fish. And if you read the doc report, eels' most favoured food is mudfish, and that's why the place is riddled. We've got look in our manholes and with a torch at night. There's thousands in our underground stormwater network.
Yeah, I had a call from someone Natakana. I wouldn't agree that, iwi weren't supportive of the low pickup, but they are.
Well,
Both.
You know, no, I
We are.
rephrased that, John, they are. It was just this Wairika Collins.
He's only one.
Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, I mean, you can go back to when they wanted to close the water race through your place with the 7 vineyards, and it was only iwi stopped it because it was a Tunny Farm Pike Lagoon.
Oh, yeah, Ralph Smith
The
was.
reason that
was
they
incredible.
had to cut it off.
Mhm. Oh, thanks, Mikey. That's
Thank you.
good work.
Chair. I've been in contact with Masters and the CBI about the water race, and I'm very supportive of both Pikey and Jason providing advice to the council and water race users up there. It's, decades of experience that we've got here in Garden, and that we should be able to share with our neighbours and talk to them about their water race and how they use their water race. And I said the same thing in South Wairarapa. What I have said to their CE is that if they want more than just some advice from Pikey, if they want activity or work to be undertaken, then they come through the front door, check with me as CEO, and then we'll check with council about whether or not we want to do that. But I think we should share our expertise, and I'm really happy that Pikey and Jason are doing that with the Opaki water race. Have no opinion on the long-term future of that race. That's not our decision. That's up to Masterton, and we'll stay out of that. But certainly in terms of ecological value, we can add a lot of value to that conversation.
Thanks, Jeff. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Never know, a couple of years' time, it might be all different.
Are we all going to be one?
It'll be different. Okay, is there any more discussion on Jet's report, water quality report? If not, we've got one recommendation, that we received the report. Can I have a mover and send it, please? John. Again. Second it. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. So,
Who second?
sorry,
Who second that?
John and John.
These two.
John McFadden, John Booth, second.
So that's the last item on the agenda today. So we'll, before I close the meeting, we'll just stand and with our closing wakamatanga. Kia wakatangi, kia wākia tiara, kia turiki whakatae, kia turiki whakatae, haumie hui tai. So thanks you all for attending, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, this is-